Every day you wake up, a war begins. Not out there in the world, but right behind your eyes. You think your enemies are people who doubt you, circumstances that block you, or luck that never comes. But the truth is brutal. Your greatest enemy is you. The weaker version of you that wants comfort. The lazy one that whispers later. The emotional one that reacts before thinking. The undisciplined one that breaks promises when no one's watching. Every battle in your life, success, focus, peace, mastery, starts and ends with this one fight, you versus you. The Stoics understood this long before motivational gurus and self-help books existed. They didn't talk about winning against others. They talked about conquering yourself, your mind, your impulses, your fears, your false desires. Because once you master yourself, no external battle can break you. The man who rules himself is the only true king. The fight starts the moment you wake up. That split second when the alarm rings, there it is, the first attack. The weaker self whispers, 5 more minutes. The stronger one knows those 5 minutes steal your edge, steal your day, steal your life. You think it's small, but that's how you lose. Not in big moments, but in thousands of tiny decisions where the weaker self wins by persuasion. The Stoics called this inner war the discipline of assent. The ability to decide which thoughts deserve your agreement. Every day your mind throws endless impressions at you. I'm tired. It's too hard. I'll do it tomorrow. Most people let these thoughts command them. The Stoic learns to pause, examine, and reject what weakens him. He becomes a gatekeeper of the mind, allowing only thoughts that serve reason, purpose, and virtue to enter. That's the real battlefield. Not the gym, not the business, not the world, your own head. The weak self doesn't come with horns. It's subtle, clever, and convincing. It's the voice that tells you to overthink instead of act, to chase pleasure instead of purpose, to seek validation instead of virtue. It wears the mask of logic, like you've worked enough, you deserve a break, this one time won't matter. But the Stoic sees through the disguise. He recognizes comfort as a silent assassin. He knows that the mind trained in ease collapses under pressure. So he deliberately chooses the harder path, not because he loves pain, but because he respects strength. Every act of resistance builds him. Every moment he says no to weakness, he grows. The Stoic doesn't hate comfort. He simply refuses to be ruled by it. You versus you is not about perfection. It's about dominance. It's about mastering the inner forces that try to sabotage your potential. You want to change your life? Start by waging war against your excuses. The Stoics trained not to avoid struggle, but to welcome it as a gym for the soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Every obstacle is not a punishment, it's a test to see which version of you wins, the one that breaks under pressure or the one that adapts and endures. The Stoic doesn't curse the challenge, he thanks it, because he knows easy days make soft men, and adversity builds the mind like iron. When life gets hard, remember, this is your battlefield. Don't waste your suffering, use it. The greatest fight happens in silence, when no one's watching, you versus you. When no one is there to applaud your effort, when your motivation dies, when you feel invisible, that's when your true self is revealed. The Stoic doesn't need attention. His discipline is his validation. He doesn't wait to feel ready. Readiness is a myth invented by the weak. He acts according to principle, not emotion. Because emotion is weather, it changes hourly. Principle is stone, it endures. The Stoic knows he can't control how he feels, but he can control what he does. That's the difference between amateurs and masters, between slaves of impulse and rulers of self. You can't lead anyone, build anything, or conquer the world until you've conquered yourself. Most people lose because they fight the wrong wars. They tried to control others, argue online, prove their worth through comparison. But Stoicism teaches the more you need control over others, the less control you have over yourself. The only domain that's truly yours is your judgment, your effort, your choices. Everything else, opinions, outcomes, recognition, belongs to fate. So the Stoic detaches. He shifts focus inward. While the crowd obsesses over results, he obsesses over execution. He knows he cannot guarantee victory, but he can guarantee discipline. And discipline is victory in itself. The Stoic fight is not to win against the world, it's to remain unshaken by it. You versus you is a daily crucible. Some days you'll lose. You'll break promises, procrastinate, feel weak. But the Stoic doesn't collapse in guilt. He analyzes, he learns. He forgives himself without pity and moves forward with renewed resolve. The weak use failure as justification to quit. The Stoic uses failure as data. That's the essence of inner mastery, not perfection, but persistence. You fall, you rise, you refine. Every time you resist the weaker self, even slightly, you reclaim territory within. The mind learns it can trust you again. That's how you rebuild confidence, through quiet, consistent victories over yourself. The battle never ends. That's what makes it sacred. There's no finish line, no final win, just endless refinement, a lifelong project of self-conquest. Stoicism isn't about becoming emotionless, it's about becoming uncontrolled by emotion. It's not about rejecting pleasure, it's about choosing reason over indulgence. It's not about isolation, it's about sovereignty. The Stoic doesn't flee from the world, he stands in it. Calm in chaos, disciplined amid temptation, rational under fire. The world tests him daily, and every test is a chance to sharpen his virtue. You versus you is not punishment, it's purpose. When you finally start seeing life this way, everything changes. Setbacks stop feeling personal. Pain becomes productive. Rejection becomes redirection. You stop begging the world to be easier and start training yourself to be stronger. You stop competing with people and start competing with your former self. You stop reacting to everything emotionally and start responding with reason. That shift from outward war to inward mastery is liberation. You realize no one can truly harm you unless you let them. No insult can wound, no loss can destroy, no chaos can control, because you've already conquered the only battlefield that matters, your mind. And yet, you must stay vigilant, because the enemy never sleeps. The weaker self always waits, in comfort, in boredom, in pride. The moment you think you've won, it returns. So stay alert. Discipline is a daily practice, not a trophy. The Stoic doesn't expect ease, he expects resistance. He's grateful for it, because resistance is proof he's alive, proof there's still growth ahead. When the fight gets hardest, that's when you're closest to strength. That's when the weaker self starts losing grip. You versus you. That's not a slogan. It's a way of living, breathing, fighting, and becoming. So tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off, remember, it's not just another day. It's another round, another chance to prove to yourself that you are stronger than your excuses, calmer than your impulses, and wiser than your emotions. The Stoic doesn't wait for the world to respect him. He earns his own respect by his daily choices. Every time you choose effort over ease, purpose over pleasure, control over chaos, you win. Not allowed.
Part 2. The enemy within. This is the part most people never understand. The fight was never with the world. It was never with the people who doubted you. It was never even about your past or your circumstances. It has always been you versus you. Every single day, from the moment you open your eyes, the real war begins. And it's not fought in the gym, the office, or on the internet. It's fought in silence, in your head, in that split second between doing what's right and doing what's easy. The version of you that wants to rise, to be disciplined, to be great, faces the version that wants to stay comfortable, entertained, and average. And that second version, it's smarter than you think. It knows how to disguise laziness as self-care. It calls procrastination planning. It calls fear being realistic. It calls weakness being human. But you know what it really is? It's the old you, terrified that you might actually outgrow it. Because if you do, it dies. And most people never kill it. They feed it, protect it, and call it their identity. The Stoic fight begins the moment you decide to stop living on autopilot. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That means your real power isn't in controlling what happens around you, but in mastering how you respond to it. Every hardship, every rejection, every delay, none of it can break you unless you let your mind interpret it as defeat. The Stoic doesn't run from pain, he studies it. He knows pain is just a teacher wearing an ugly face. When things go wrong, he doesn't say, "Why me?" He says, "Good, another test." That mindset separates warriors from victims, because victims let the world dictate their mood. Warriors dictate their mood regardless of the world. You can have storms raging around you, but if you've built calm within, nothing outside can touch you. That's the essence of Stoic strength. Control the controllable, accept the rest, and never be owned by emotions you can command. But let's get brutally real. The enemy within doesn't die easily. It waits for weakness. It shows up when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're comfortable. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It tells you you've worked enough today. It says you'll start tomorrow. It convinces you that watching one more video or scrolling 5 more minutes won't hurt. But every time you listen, you lose ground. Because that inner enemy feeds on delay. It thrives on hesitation. It's not that life is testing you. It's that your weaker self is constantly trying to pull you back to mediocrity. Every skipped workout, every half effort, every moment you choose distraction over discipline, that's the enemy winning. And if you keep letting him win, one day you'll wake up full of regret, realizing the person you could have become was murdered by the person you decided to stay. You see, the Stoic doesn't wait for motivation. He knows motivation is a coward. It shows up only when things are easy. Discipline, on the other hand, is ruthless. It doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care if it's raining, if you're tired, if you're not in the mood. Discipline says, do it anyway. That's why Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about mastering them. You can feel fear, anger, laziness, and still move forward. That's true control. You're not a slave to emotion, you're its commander. The average person lives like a puppet, strings pulled by every temporary feeling. A Stoic cuts the strings and moves with purpose. When you stop being emotionally reactive, you become unstoppable, because people who can't be rattled can't be controlled. Let me remind you, the enemy isn't out there. It's not the economy, not your parents, not your environment. Those are just excuses disguised as facts. The real enemy lives in your decisions. It's in that instant when you know what's right and still choose what's easy. The enemy is the maybe later mindset that kills dreams faster than failure ever could. It's the belief that you need to feel ready. No one ever feels ready. Readiness is a lie comfort tells you, so you never take action. The Stoic acts regardless of readiness. He knows that clarity comes through motion, not waiting. The longer you delay your greatness, your inner enemy grows stronger, smarter, and harder to kill. The Stoic fight is not glamorous. It's repetitive, exhausting, and lonely. It's saying no to things that everyone else says yes to. It's doing the boring, unsexy work that no one praises but everyone envies later. It's forcing yourself to think long-term when your mind craves quick dopamine hits. Stoicism isn't about smiling while everything burns. It's standing still in the fire without losing control. It's when the world is falling apart and you whisper, "Still I remain." That's power. And here's the secret. Once you've mastered yourself, life bends in your favor. Because no external chaos can shake a man who's calm inside. The world can take your money, your time, your comfort, but if it can't take your peace, you've already won. But this fight isn't one battle, it's lifelong. War. You don't defeat the weaker version once and for all. You defeat him daily. Every morning he wakes up with you, and every night you either silence him or surrender to him. You win not through one big act, but through 1,000 small acts of discipline. Waking up when you said you would, training when you don't feel like it, focusing when distraction seduces you, speaking the truth when lying would be easier. Those are the victories that build unbreakable men. The world doesn't need more motivated people, it needs more self-disciplined warriors. Every Stoic knew this. The hardest battle is the one no one sees. Epictetus was once a slave. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor. Yet they both fought the same war, not against society, but against their own impulses. Their names didn't matter because the human mind is the same battlefield in every era. The names change, the temptations evolve, but the enemy remains identical, the voice of weakness. And the only way to silence it is through action, not affirmations, not wishing, but doing. The Stoic doesn't talk about becoming disciplined. He proves it through consistency. You versus you. That's the only fight worth fighting. And when you understand that, the world stops being your obstacle and becomes your training ground. Every insult, every delay, every failure, every loss, all of it is just fuel to sharpen your edge. The man who controls himself controls everything, because he can't be broken by outcomes. You can strip him of everything and he'll still find a way to move forward. That's what true strength looks like. Silent, consistent, unshakable. So stop waiting for life to get easier. It won't. The goal isn't to remove the pain, but to outgrow it. Every time you resist the weaker voice inside, you evolve. Every day you show up regardless of how you feel, you level up. Every small act of discipline is a brick in the fortress of your mind. Build that fortress brick by brick until no external storm can touch you. The fight will never end, but that's the beauty of it. Because every day you fight, you're not just surviving, you're becoming unstoppable. This is the Stoic fight, Not with fists, not with words, but with willpower. The war is inside, and the victory is internal. The world will try to distract you, tempt you, and break your focus. But remember, the greatest men in history weren't the ones who conquered empires. They were the ones who conquered themselves. And once you win the battle within, the outside world doesn't stand a chance.
Part 3. The Discipline War. Discipline. That's the dividing line between men who dream and men who execute. You can read every book, watch every motivational video, and plan your life perfectly. But without discipline, it's all just noise. The Stoics knew this centuries ago. They didn't chase moods, they built systems. They didn't wait for inspiration, they became their own command. The moment you wake up, the war begins. Not against the world, but against the part of you that wants to take it easy. That voice says, 5 more minutes. And those 5 minutes turn into a wasted morning. It says, you can start tomorrow. And that tomorrow turns into a forgotten dream. Discipline doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your feelings, your comfort, or your excuses. It's the art of doing what must be done, especially when you don't feel like doing it. Because every time you act on your feelings instead of your purpose, you weaken your power. Every time you delay what you know is right, you strengthen the chains around your potential. The Stoic fight isn't about how you feel, it's about what you do despite how you feel. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." That line alone separates warriors from the masses. Most people wake up chasing comfort, but a Stoic wakes up chasing control. He knows every sunrise is another round in the discipline war. He knows that comfort is the quiet assassin of greatness. It doesn't strike fast, it suffocates slowly. You think you're resting, but you're actually rotting. You think you're saving energy, but you're losing momentum. The body becomes weak, the mind becomes soft, and the soul becomes restless. The disciplined man suffers once in the doing. The undisciplined man suffers twice, in regret and in shame. And regret always costs more than effort, every single time. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not motivational speeches or victory montages. It's silent. It's repetition. It's doing the same thing 1,000 times with no applause, no dopamine rush, no recognition, just raw focus. That's why it's so rare. Most people quit not because they're incapable, but because they can't handle the boredom that discipline demands. But the Stoics understood that boredom is the price of mastery. You don't become strong by variety, you become strong by consistency. A boxer doesn't win by trying new punches every day. He wins by perfecting the same jab until it becomes part of his DNA. A philosopher doesn't gain wisdom by chasing novelty. He gains it by revisiting the same principles until they become instinct. That's what discipline does. It turns effort into identity. You don't just practice discipline, you become disciplined. And here's the paradox. The more disciplined you become, the freer you are. Most people see discipline as a cage, but it's actually the key. When you control your mind, your habits, your time, no one can control you. You're no longer a puppet to distractions, emotions, or circumstances. You become untouchable. The man who can say no to comfort is the man who can say yes to anything. The Stoics built empires not with wealth or armies, but with self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius ruled millions, but his real kingdom was his own mind. Epictetus was born a slave, but his discipline made him freer than his masters. That's the level of mental control you must aim for, where your will is unbreakable. But let's get brutally honest. Discipline hurts. It's supposed to, because it's the process of killing weakness. Every rep in the gym, every hour of focus, every decision to stay consistent, it's a war of attrition against your lower nature. You'll want to quit. You'll crave comfort. You'll hear that voice whisper, "You deserve a break." But that's the same voice that destroyed thousands of men who once had fire in their hearts. Every time you ignore that voice and move anyway, you grow stronger. And one day, that voice grows quieter, not because it disappears, but because it realizes you're no longer listening. That's what the Stoics meant by apatheia, not the absence of emotion, but the dominance over it. In a world that glorifies comfort and convenience, discipline becomes rebellion. Everyone is soft because everyone's chasing easy. Everyone wants results without resistance. But the Stoic knows the obstacle is the path. Every time you choose the harder road, you become rarer. Every time you do what others avoid, you level up while they stay stuck. That's why the disciplined man eventually stands alone, not because he isolates himself, but because few are willing to walk where he walks. The crowd mocks what it doesn't understand. They'll call you obsessed, cold, or extreme. But obsession is what greatness looks like from the outside. While they talk, you execute. While they rest, you rise. While they chase pleasure, you chase purpose. But here's the truth most never face. Discipline doesn't start with action. It starts with clarity. You can't be disciplined without a direction. You need to know exactly what you're building, or you'll end up mistaking busyness for progress. Stoic discipline is rooted in reason. Every action must align with your highest principles. Ask yourself daily, does this move me closer to who I want to become? If the answer is no, it's distraction. Cut it ruthlessly. The disciplined life is a filtered life. Only the essential survives. That's why Stoicism and minimalism are connected. Both demand subtraction. You remove noise, temptations, useless opinions, emotional baggage, until what remains is pure focus. Let's go deeper. Discipline is also the bridge between emotion and execution. It's what turns inspiration into results. You don't need to feel like working out to work out. You don't need to feel confident to act confidently. You don't need to feel ready to start. Discipline rewires your brain to act first, feel later. And once you master that, you'll realize something profound. Emotions follow action, not the other way around. You feel proud after you act brave, not before. You feel confident after you take the risk, not before. The Stoics understood this. They didn't chase feelings, they chased actions aligned with virtue. And when discipline becomes your natural state, life simplifies. There's no more arguing with yourself, no more mental negotiations, no more guilt. You decide, you execute, and you move on. That's peace. Not the fake peace of comfort, but the real peace of control. The Stoic wakes up, faces his duties, and does them. That's it. No drama, no complaining, no waiting for motivation. He knows the simple truth. The man who cannot command himself will always be commanded by others. So ask yourself right now, are you in control or are you controlled? Do you command your days or do your days command you? The man who can't say no to his impulses, his phone, his distractions. He's not free no matter how much money or fame he has. But the man who can say no to his weakness, he owns his soul. That's the Stoic fight. Daily discipline, daily defiance. You versus the part of you that wants to give up. And you win not by shouting, but by showing up every day without fail. That's the discipline war. Not fought with weapons, but with willpower. Not won in one battle, but in thousands of unseen moments. The world crowns the talented, but time crowns the disciplined. And in that war, the Stoic never loses. He either wins or learns.
Part 4. The Power of Pain. Pain, the word everyone fears, but the Stoic welcomes. Because pain is not your enemy, it's your greatest mentor. Every Stoic from Seneca to Epictetus understood this universal law. Comfort weakens, pain strengthens. The modern world has forgotten this truth. We run from discomfort like it's poison, but it's actually the purest form of transformation. You cannot grow in peace. You cannot evolve in ease. You cannot become powerful while avoiding suffering. The Stoics knew that the more you run from pain, the more powerless you become. Every time you choose comfort over discomfort, you trade strength for softness. And that's how most people die, not from failure, but from comfort. Slowly, silently, comfortably. The Stoic doesn't seek pain for pleasure. He seeks it for progress. He knows that life will test him, and pain is the tool the universe uses to measure his strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Let that sink in. Your obstacles are not blocking your path. They are your path. When things go wrong, the weak ask, "Why me?" The Stoic asks, "What is this trying to teach me?" That shift in mindset is everything. Pain stops being a punishment and becomes preparation. Every scar is a lesson written in flesh. Every heartbreak, every failure, every betrayal, all of them are sharpening you into something harder to break. But here's the reality. Most people never face their pain. They drown it in noise, in entertainment, in fake pleasures. They scroll, drink, smoke, and distract themselves into numbness, because numbness feels safer than awareness. But the Stoic does the opposite. He sits with his pain. He examines it, studies it, breaks it down. He doesn't numb it, he names it. He doesn't ask for it to end, he asks how he can use it. And that's why he becomes untouchable. You can't destroy a man who has befriended his suffering. You can't scare someone who has already made peace with pain. When life hits him, he doesn't shatter. He absorbs it and grows tougher. You see, pain is the price of power. There's no version of greatness that comes without it. The man who avoids pain avoids transformation. You think you're protecting yourself by avoiding struggle, but you're only delaying growth. Pain is the doorway, not the punishment. When you lift heavy weights, your muscles tear. That's pain. When you fast, your hunger screams. That's pain. When you discipline your mind, your comfort protests. That's pain. But in every case, pain signals progress. That's why the Stoics leaned into it. They knew that suffering is the forge of strength. Every time you endure what others can't, you separate yourself from the masses. But make no mistake, this isn't about masochism or blind endurance. The Stoic doesn't seek meaningless pain. He embraces purposeful pain. There's a difference. Pointless suffering breaks you. Purposeful suffering builds you. The Stoic chooses the pain that makes him better, the pain of discipline, growth, and sacrifice. He rejects the pain of regret, guilt, and wasted time. You can't escape pain. It's a law of life. You either suffer now through effort or suffer later through regret. But one pain builds character, the other destroys it.
Epictetus, who was literally born into slavery and crippled by his master, taught his students that no one could harm his mind. He said, "Lameness is an impediment to the leg, not to the will." That's power. The world took everything from him, his freedom, his body, but it couldn't touch his soul. Because pain can only reach you if you give it permission. Most people suffer twice, once from the event and once from their reaction to it. The Stoic suffers once. He accepts it, learns from it, and moves on. Pain comes, but it doesn't stay. It passes through him like fire refining gold. Let me say this straight. If you're afraid of pain, you'll stay average forever. Because pain is the toll gate between who you are and who you want to become. Every level of growth demands a sacrifice. You want to be fit? You'll suffer in the gym. You want wealth? You'll suffer through risk and rejection. You want peace? You'll suffer by detaching from things you crave. There is no path without pain. And the sooner you accept that, the faster you grow. When you stop resisting pain and start using it, life stops being a constant struggle and becomes a battlefield you're built to dominate. And here's the secret most never understand. Pain has an expiration date, but weakness doesn't. The discomfort you feel today will fade. The soreness, the hunger, the tiredness, they all end. But the strength they leave behind stays forever. Weakness, on the other hand, lasts a lifetime. The man who avoids pain carries the same fears, doubts, and insecurities forever. He stays stuck, repeating the same lessons life keeps trying to teach him. The Stoic learns the lesson once. He endures the pain, adapts, and evolves. That's why pain is the greatest teacher. It doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter, and it doesn't let you escape without learning. Think about your past. Every major shift, every awakening, every moment that changed you, it was born in pain. The heartbreak that made you value loyalty, the failure that made you disciplined, the rejection that made you self-reliant. Pain carved you into something harder to break. So why run from the very thing that made you stronger? The Stoic doesn't ask for an easy life. He asks for the strength to handle a hard one. Because he knows that a man tested by pain becomes a man trusted by fate. Life gives power only to those who've proven they can handle suffering without breaking. The Stoic fight, then, is not to avoid pain, but to use it, to turn it into power, to turn chaos into clarity, to turn setbacks into stepping stones. Every painful event carries within it a hidden advantage, if you're strong enough to look for it. Most people stop at the pain. The Stoic digs for the purpose. And when you start seeing pain as training instead of punishment, everything changes. The heartbreak isn't loss, it's detachment training. The failure isn't defeat, it's redirection. The criticism isn't insult, it's emotional conditioning. Everything becomes fuel. And once you master that mindset, life becomes simple. Nothing can destroy you because everything serves you. You stop fearing failure. You stop resenting struggle. You stop hiding from reality. You become like tempered steel, bent, beaten, burned, but never broken. Pain doesn't scare you anymore. It excites you because you know it's proof that you're still growing.
Part 5. The Art of Control. Control, the word that separates chaos from calm, weakness from strength, ordinary men from stoics. Every problem you face in life stems from one illusion, the belief that you can control what you cannot. The Stoics understood this deeply, that peace doesn't come from changing the world, but from mastering yourself. They divided life into two categories: what is within our control and what is not, and they refused to waste even a second of energy on the latter.
That's where 99% of people lose the fight. They spend their lives trying to control outcomes, people, opinions, timing, and luck. They chase what they were never meant to own and neglect the one domain that was always theirs, their mind. The Stoic fights a different battle. He doesn't try to control the storm. He learns to stand still in it. Because when you stop reacting to what you can't control, you start commanding what you can. Your focus, your actions, your emotions, your response. That is the essence of power. Think about it. Most people are slaves, not because of chains on their bodies, but because of chains on their emotions. Someone insults them and they lose control. Someone ignores them and they spiral. Something doesn't go as planned and they crumble. The Stoic sees this and smiles because he knows it's not the event that hurts you, it's your interpretation of it. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's total control, the ability to rewrite meaning in real time. You can't always choose what happens, but you can always choose what it means. The weak man lets events define him. The Stoic defines events through the lens of reason. That's why he stays calm in chaos, not because his life is easier, but because his mind is stronger. Control begins where blame ends. As long as you're blaming someone or something for how you feel, you're powerless. The moment you take ownership, you take back your strength. You can't control that someone betrayed you, but you can control whether you let that betrayal harden your heart or sharpen your discernment. You can't control that life threw you a setback, but you can control whether you see it as defeat or redirection. You can't control outcomes, only inputs, your effort, your discipline, your response. That's the Stoic secret to unshakable peace. Life becomes simpler when you stop trying to play God. You no longer demand that the world obey your will. You just focus on obeying your own principles. But here's the brutal truth. Most people are addicted to control because they're terrified of uncertainty. They want guarantees, predictability, certainty. But Stoicism teaches that life is nothing but uncertainty. The more you resist it, the more you suffer. The man who needs control over everything will live anxious, angry, and exhausted. The man who only seeks control over himself will live calm, clear, and free. That's why Stoics didn't chase stability. They built inner stability. They didn't hope the world would be calm. They trained themselves to be calm in a chaotic world. Control is not about suppressing emotion. It's about mastering it. It's not about feeling nothing. It's about being moved only by what matters. Imagine someone insults you. The average man reacts instantly: anger, defense, revenge. The Stoic pauses. He observes the emotion rising inside him and chooses whether it deserves a response. That pause is power. That pause is control. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to respond to every opinion. The Stoic sees every emotional reaction as a test, not from the world, but from himself. Can I stay still while others lose their balance? Can I stay grounded when life shakes me? That's mastery, because when you control your reaction, you control the outcome. You turn emotional chaos into tactical calm. Let's be clear. Control is not about rigidity. The Stoic doesn't try to dominate everything. He adapts. He bends without breaking, like a tree in the storm, flexible enough to move, strong enough not to fall. That's what makes him unstoppable. When something doesn't go as planned, he doesn't collapse. He recalculates. He understands the universal truth that everything in life is neutral until you label it. Losing your job isn't good or bad. It just is. Someone leaving your life isn't tragic or freeing. It just is. You attach meaning, and that meaning determines your peace or suffering. So control begins not in action, but in perception. You want to be unshakable? Master the lens you see the world through. The Stoics used what's called the dichotomy of control, a mental filter for every event. When something happens, they'd ask, is this within my control? If yes, act with discipline. If no, accept it instantly. No overthinking, no anxiety, no paralysis, just clarity. That's the formula for peace. Act where you can, release where you can't. But most people do the opposite. They obsess over what they can't change and neglect what they can. They worry about the past, fear the future, and waste the present. The Stoic reverses that. He controls his mind in the now. He knows the past is dead and the future is unborn. The only moment that exists, the only moment you can control, is this one. That's why Stoicism is a ruthless self-awareness. You must watch your thoughts like a guard watches prisoners. One negative thought left unchecked becomes 10. One complaint becomes a habit. One emotional outburst becomes your identity. The Stoic trains his mind like a soldier trains his weapon, daily, deliberately, without excuses. Because a calm mind is a deadly weapon in a chaotic world. Epictetus taught that no man is free who is not master of himself. If you can't control your tongue, your temper, your attention, you're not free. You're enslaved to impulse. But here's where most people fail. They confuse control with repression. Repression is weakness wearing a mask. It's pretending not to care while dying inside. Stoic control is different. It's acknowledgement without attachment. You can feel anger and not act on it. You can feel sadness and still move forward. You can experience fear and still take action. Control doesn't mean the storm doesn't exist. It means you've built a fortress strong enough to stand through it. That's why the Stoic doesn't flinch when life tests him, because he's not seeking a world without storms. He's become the man who can walk through them calmly. Now, understand this. Control isn't something you achieve once. It's a muscle you strengthen daily. Every irritation is a rep. Every delay, every setback, every trigger, an opportunity to train your calm. Someone cuts you off in traffic, control your reaction. Your plans fall apart, control your response. You feel fear before a big move, control your action. Every moment life tests you is a chance to sharpen your composure. You don't meditate to escape chaos, you meditate to remain composed in it. The Stoic's power lies not in isolation, but in unshakable equilibrium. And the beauty of true control is this: it breeds confidence. The man who controls himself doesn't fear anything because he knows he can handle everything. His calm becomes his shield, his discipline becomes his armor, his detachment becomes his freedom. He doesn't need things to go his way because he knows he'll make his way regardless. That's why the Stoic walks differently, grounded, measured, present. He doesn't chase chaos. Chaos chases him and fails to break him. But the greatest test of control isn't how you handle failure, it's how you handle success. Many can stay disciplined when they're struggling, but few stay grounded when they start winning. Success creates illusion, the illusion that you're invincible, that you can relax, that you've earned comfort. That's when control slips. That's when the ego whispers, "You've made it." The Stoic kills that voice immediately. He practices voluntary discomfort even in abundance. He fasts when food is plenty. He trains when he doesn't have to. He stays humble when others start worshiping their reflection. Because control over success is rarer than control over suffering. One tests your resilience, the other tests your ego. The ultimate Stoic control is freedom from attachment to outcomes, people, possessions, and praise. When nothing external owns you, you become dangerous. You can't be manipulated because you want nothing from anyone. You can't be broken because your peace doesn't depend on anything fragile. That's why the Stoic isn't cold, he's clear. He can love deeply, but not dependently. He can pursue goals fiercely, but not desperately. Because control means you give your all, but never give away your peace. You act with full intensity, but release full attachment. So here's the challenge.
Starting today, master the art of control. Stop wasting energy trying to change what you can't. Channel that power into what you can. Your effort, your discipline, your reaction. When someone wrongs you, let it refine you, not define.
The war of discipline is the quietest, yet the most brutal fight a human can ever face. There are no swords, no battle cries, no applause when you win, only silence, sweat, and repetition. It's a war that never ends because the enemy is never external. It's you, your impulses, your distractions, your moods, your excuses. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. No man is truly free until he has mastered himself. You can conquer kingdoms, earn millions, or build an empire, but if you cannot conquer your own mind, you are still a slave to your desires, your weaknesses, your laziness. Epictetus said it best, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that's the foundation of the Stoic fight, to build unbreakable discipline, not for applause, not for validation, but for peace. Because the man who is disciplined lives with internal order in a chaotic world. He is calm when others panic, consistent when others quit, and focused when others scatter. Discipline isn't a one-time act, it's a lifestyle. It's the invisible structure that shapes every great man's destiny. The world will tell you to follow your passion, but the Stoic knows that passion is fleeting. It burns bright and fades fast. Discipline, on the other hand, is eternal. It's the daily decision to show up whether you feel like it or not. And that's where most people lose. They wait for motivation, for inspiration, for the perfect moment to act. But the Stoic knows there is no perfect moment. The only moment that exists is now, and it demands action. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I have to go to work,' as a human being." That's the Stoic way, not waiting to feel ready, but acting because it's your duty. Every morning, you wake up to a battle between the weaker you and the disciplined you. The weaker you wants comfort, delay, indulgence. It says, "You deserve rest." It tells you, "You'll start tomorrow." But the disciplined you doesn't negotiate. It moves. Because discipline isn't about feeling, it's about identity. You don't wake up disciplined. You decide to be disciplined every single day until it becomes who you are. The Stoic doesn't seek the easy path, he seeks the right one. He knows that comfort is a trap, and every time he gives in to it, he loses a piece of his power. Modern society has made comfort a god. Everything around you screams ease, fast food, fast entertainment, instant validation, instant pleasure. But the Stoic sees through the illusion. He knows that comfort creates weakness, and weakness creates suffering. Discipline is the antidote, the structure that gives your life weight and meaning. The weak crave motivation. The disciplined rely on systems. The weak set goals. The disciplined create routines. Because routines remove the need for willpower. When something becomes a habit, it becomes automatic. And that's when you've truly mastered it. The war of discipline isn't grand gestures. It's fought in the small, invisible decisions. Waking up when you said you would, staying on task when your mind drifts, saying no when temptation whispers. Those small victories build your foundation brick by brick. And when you stack enough bricks, you build something unshakable. self-respect. Because discipline's greatest reward isn't success, it's self-trust. The moment you consistently do what you said you would, your mind begins to trust you again. You become reliable to yourself. That's confidence. Not affirmations, not fake hype, just proof, evidence that you keep your word. Marcus Aurelius, ruler of one of the greatest empires in history, didn't need fame or approval. He needed order. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's the essence of discipline. Do, don't discuss. Show, don't talk. Every minute you waste rationalizing your laziness, you could have been acting. The Stoic doesn't waste energy explaining himself. His actions speak louder than his excuses. Discipline is not glamorous. It's repetitive, it's lonely, and it's often thankless. But that's why it's powerful, because most people can't handle it. They crave quick validation and instant rewards. But discipline is the long game. It's the willingness to endure boredom, pain, and silence because you know what you're building is greater than temporary comfort. The Stoic embraces monotony because he knows mastery lives inside it. The same exercises, the same routines, the same consistency. That's what refines you. The difference between average and exceptional isn't talent, it's repetition. The Stoic warrior doesn't fight with motivation. He fights with principle. Motivation is emotion, it's fleeting. Principle is eternal. Discipline doesn't care if you're tired, sad, or uninspired. It demands respect. It says, do it anyway. Because every time you obey your emotions, you become weaker. Every time you act despite them, you become stronger. That's how resilience is built, not through comfort, but through controlled struggle. When you deny yourself the easy way out, you harden your mind and sharpen your will. People ask, how do I stay disciplined? But the truth is, you don't stay disciplined, you become disciplined. It's a transformation through suffering and repetition. You become the type of person who doesn't need to be pushed, the type who doesn't break promises to himself. You become self-sufficient. The Stoic doesn't chase motivation because he is the motivation. He doesn't need external energy because he generates his own through consistency. Discipline also means integrity, doing what's right when no one is watching. That's the test most fail. It's easy to act focused when eyes are on you, but discipline is defined in solitude. When it's just you, your thoughts, and your goals, that's when your character reveals itself. The Stoic knows that greatness is built in the unseen hours, when everyone else is asleep, distracted, or making excuses. He's too focused on his duty to care about being noticed. His reward is the calm that comes from knowing he gave everything. The war of discipline never ends. Every stage of your life will test your commitment. Success will tempt you to relax, failure will tempt you to quit, and boredom will tempt you to drift. But the Stoic fights all three. He knows that the real challenge begins after success, staying sharp, humble, and hungry. Discipline isn't something you do until you achieve something, it's something you become so you can maintain it. That's why the Stoic doesn't celebrate too long. He wins a battle, then prepares for the next. Because comfort after victory is just as dangerous as fear before it. The disciplined man doesn't fear difficulty, he respects it. He knows difficulty is the architect of growth. Every hard task you complete, every uncomfortable moment you endure, adds to your power. You stop seeing work as punishment and start seeing it as privilege, the chance to test your endurance, your focus, your patience. The Stoic doesn't run from the grind. He finds peace inside it. He turns repetition into meditation. His discipline becomes his form of worship, a daily offering to excellence. To be disciplined is to be untouchable. You can't be manipulated by pleasure or pain because you own both. You can't be distracted by chaos because you live by structure. You can't be broken by setbacks because you don't rely on emotion, only action. The Stoic lives by an unbreakable rule: do what must be done. No negotiations, no waiting, just execution. Because he knows that every time he delays, he feeds his weakness. Every time he acts, he strengthens his soul. And eventually, discipline becomes freedom. That's the
Pain, the one word most people run from, but the Stoic runs toward. Because to the weak, pain is punishment, but to the strong, it's purification. Every ache, every setback, every lonely night where your goals feel miles away, those moments are your anvil, the place where your future self is being forged. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining." He didn't say avoid it. He didn't say numb it. He said endure it, because he knew pain has a purpose. The modern world has conditioned you to escape discomfort, to soothe, to scroll, to silence every ounce of struggle with instant pleasure. But every time you choose comfort over pain, you weaken your armor. You become soft. And a soft mind cannot lead a strong life. The Stoic understands this at his core. Pain isn't a signal to stop. It's a signal to begin. Every rep in the gym, every failure in your craft, every rejection, every moment you're doubted, that's pain revealing who you really are. When life squeezes you, your character spills out. The question is, what's inside you? Most people think their suffering is unfair. They ask, why me? The Stoic asks, why not me? Because he knows life was never designed to be fair. Fairness is a myth. Life tests those who demand greatness. The Stoic takes every ounce of pain and burns it as fuel. He doesn't seek pity. He seeks pressure, because he knows pressure creates diamonds and avoidance creates decay. Think of Seneca, exiled, betrayed, condemned, yet still writing words so powerful they've outlived empires. Why? Because he used his pain. He didn't drown in it. He transformed it into wisdom. You too must learn to suffer well. When you wake up feeling empty, when plans collapse, when everything seems to move against you, understand that your struggle is not punishment, it's preparation. Every storm you survive expands your threshold for more. The pain you're enduring now is building the strength you'll need later. You can't cheat this process. You can't skip to the peace without passing through the pain. Stoicism isn't about pretending pain doesn't exist. It's about refusing to let it define you. The gym hurts. Waking up early hurts. Building discipline hurts. But that pain is voluntary suffering that molds your mind like steel. Because if you don't face controlled pain, life will give you chaotic pain, the kind that destroys instead of builds. Choose your pain. Take the cold shower.
Do the hard work. Sit with your thoughts instead of escaping them. Let the silence sting. Let the discomfort teach you. Pain is the tuition you pay for strength and the currency of greatness. The Stoic doesn't pray for lighter burdens, he prays for a stronger back. He knows that without resistance, growth is impossible. Even a tree grows stronger roots when the wind hits it. Without adversity, it topples. So stop asking for peace before you've earned it. Don't waste your suffering, study it. Ask what it's teaching you. Maybe it's showing you how attached you are to control, or how fragile your patience is, or how much you still rely on the opinions of others. The Stoic looks his pain in the eye and says, "You can stay, but you will not break me." Because every trial, every heartbreak, every failure is just another lesson wrapped in discomfort. And when the weak crumble, the Stoic remains still. Not because he feels nothing, but because he refuses to be ruled by what he feels. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. You can suffer from resisting it, or you can grow by embracing it. The Stoic chooses the second. He doesn't wait for comfort to appear. He becomes comfortable in the fire. And when you can look at pain not as an enemy, but as an ally, you'll realize that every moment of struggle was secretly sculpting the unshakable version of you've always needed to become. Because in the end, it's not success that shapes you. It's the pain you had the courage to face without breaking.
The world today moves faster than ever. Notifications, noise, opinions, chaos. Every second, something demands your attention, pulling you in 100 directions. And in this storm of distractions, most people lose themselves completely. They react, they scroll, they compare, they chase validation, and slowly they forget how to be. But the Stoic, he stands still. He walks through the storm like a man walking through fire, untouched, because he understands one of life's most powerful truths. The world cannot shake a mind that is anchored in stillness. Stillness is not inaction, it's controlled power. It's the art of remaining calm while the world burns around you. It's looking chaos in the face and saying, "You don't move me." Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire surrounded by war, betrayal, disease, and yet he wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That's the essence of this part. Building an inner fortress so strong that no noise, no crisis, no judgment can invade it. The Stoic doesn't chase silence by escaping the world. He creates silence within it. Because true silence isn't the absence of noise, it's the absence of internal chaos. It's when your thoughts obey you instead of controlling you. Most people can't sit in silence for 5 minutes without reaching for a distraction. Why? Because silence exposes them. It shows them who they really are: anxious, restless, uncertain. But the Stoic welcomes that exposure. He stares into the discomfort until it dissolves. He trains his mind to remain steady no matter what happens outside. That's why he appears emotionless to the weak, not because he feels nothing, but because he refuses to be ruled by emotion. Stillness doesn't mean you never get angry, sad, or frustrated. It means you control your response. You feel deeply, but act wisely. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." And bravery in this world means being calm when everyone else is panicking. It means thinking when others react. It means acting with purpose when everyone else chases impulse. Stillness is the power that separates leaders from followers, warriors from the weak. When your mind is still, you can see clearly. The lies, the illusions, the distractions that control everyone else. And once you see clearly, no one can manipulate you again. In the Stoic fight, stillness is your shield. The enemy thrives on reaction. Anger, jealousy, fear, haste. Every time you react emotionally, you hand your power away. But when you pause, breathe, and observe, you take it back. You become untouchable. Because the truth is, life will always test you. It will throw storms, chaos, betrayal, loss, but none of it has power until you give it power. The Stoic knows that between the event and the reaction, there's a space, a sacred pause. That's where strength lives. The weak react instantly. The strong respond deliberately. To build stillness, you must train it like a muscle. It starts small. When someone insults you, stay silent. When plans fail, breathe before you speak. When fear rises, watch it instead of running from it. Each time you do, you grow quieter inside, and that quiet becomes your advantage. Because when the world screams, the Stoic listens. He doesn't drown in the noise, he studies it. And from that stillness, he acts with precision. That's how great empires are built, not by frantic motion, but by calm decision. The Stoic also practices detachment, not from people or life, but from outcome. He does his duty and releases the result. He knows he controls effort, not fate. That's why he's peaceful even in loss, because he never expected control over what was never his. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the anchor. That's stillness. You stop chasing control over what's uncontrollable, and suddenly the storm loses its grip on you. The modern man is addicted to control. Control over people, over circumstances, over perceptions. But the Stoic knows that control is an illusion. The only thing you can truly command is your inner state. That's why he wins when others collapse. When everyone else complains, he adjusts. When they panic, he plans. When they freeze, he moves forward in silence. Stillness doesn't mean standing still. It means acting from clarity, not chaos. It means the storm outside can rage all it wants, but inside, it's calm. There's a reason the greatest warriors in history practiced stillness. Because when the world slows down inside you, you move with precision outside. A calm mind is like a sharp blade. It cuts through confusion, emotion, and fear. The Stoic uses stillness as strategy. He doesn't rush decisions, he observes patterns. He doesn't react to insults, he reads intent. He doesn't fight every battle, he conserves his energy for the ones that matter. That's wisdom, using stillness as leverage. But stillness doesn't come from doing nothing. It's earned. Through discipline, through pain, through self-mastery. You build it through early mornings, hard choices, and moments of solitude. You build it by stepping away from noise. Not forever, but long enough to hear your own thoughts. The Stoic knows solitude is not loneliness. It's clarity. That's where he recalibrates, where he reminds himself of what truly matters. The weak fear solitude because they fear facing themselves. The Stoic seeks it because that's where he sharpens himself. To live with stillness is to become unbreakable. Not because you avoid emotion, but because you understand it. You learn to see anger as energy to be redirected, not expressed.
You see fear as awareness, not paralysis. You see sadness as reflection, not defeat. Stillness allows you to use every emotion as a tool, not a chain. The man who can sit with his pain without needing to escape it is a master of himself. And when you master yourself, you master the world. So when life gets loud, when plans collapse, when people disappoint you, when the world demands urgency, remember this: slow down. The storm only wins when you move at its pace. Stillness isn't weakness, it's control. The loudest man in the room is usually the most lost. The calmest one has already won. The Stoic doesn't need to shout his strength. He radiates it through presence. And that presence, quiet, steady, composed, is what makes him untouchable. In the end, stillness is the bridge between chaos and clarity, between reaction and wisdom, between fear and freedom. When you master stillness, you become the eye of the storm. Chaos swirls around you, but inside there is peace. And in that peace lies your power. Because while everyone else burns themselves out chasing noise, you will move quietly, intentionally, and with purpose. And that's how the Stoic wins the greatest battle of all, not by controlling the world, but by mastering himself within it.
Part 9. The Value of Time. Time, the one resource no human can recover once lost, the only currency that defines the quality of your life, yet the one most squandered. Every second that slips by without purpose is gone forever. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And he was right. The tragedy of life is not death, it is distraction, procrastination, and meaningless consumption. The Stoic understands that time is life itself, and to waste time is to waste yourself. Every hour spent scrolling, complaining, envying, or delaying is an hour of your own existence stolen from you. You cannot buy it back, you cannot negotiate for it, you cannot reclaim it. That's why the Stoic fights for it as fiercely as he would a battlefield, because it is sacred. The modern world is addicted to the illusion of endless time. We plan to start tomorrow, next week, next year. We postpone discipline, mastery, and creation as if time were infinite. But it isn't. Life is a series of moments, each one fleeting, each one irretrievable. The Stoic knows that waiting for the perfect moment is the ultimate trap. There is no perfect moment. There is only now. And every time you wait, you give your power away. To master life, you must master your minutes. Every morning, you are granted 24 hours, no more, no less. What you choose to do with them defines your existence. The weak fritter it on distractions. The strong forge it into results. The Stoic approaches time like a craftsman approaches his tools, deliberately, intentionally, with precision. Every task, every decision, every action is measured against the value of his life. He asks, does this serve me or does it steal from me? If it serves, he invests. If it steals, he discards. That's why the Stoic doesn't waste hours on petty arguments, social drama, or trivial entertainment. He doesn't give his mind to what will not matter in a year, a month, or even a day. The weak give their attention freely and endlessly. The Stoic protects it jealously because time once spent cannot be returned. History is littered with the bodies of men who thought they had time. They waited for opportunities, delayed their growth, and surrendered to comfort. And when they looked up, they found themselves empty. The years gone, the energy exhausted, the potential
unfulfilled. That's the cruel reality. You are growing older every day, whether you like it or not, and the only question is how you spend what remains. The Stoic lives in constant awareness of this fact. He doesn't fear death in the abstract. He fears a life wasted, because death is inevitable, but waste is optional. And most men choose waste. Time, like pain and discipline, must be mastered. It begins with awareness, tracking your hours, observing your habits, understanding where your life flows and where it drifts. Every distraction is a leak. Every habit is either a tool or a trap. The Stoic audits his day relentlessly, removing what is unnecessary, focusing on what is vital. He treats time as the finite, non-renewable force it is, and by doing so, he gains something more valuable than money, fame, or power. He gains life itself. But awareness alone is not enough. Action is required. The Stoic converts awareness into execution. He does not merely notice the hours wasted, he acts to reclaim them. He rises early, he plans meticulously, he prioritizes relentlessly. Every moment becomes a deliberate choice, a brushstroke on the canvas of his life. He doesn't multitask without purpose, he focuses. He doesn't chase every opportunity, he pursues the ones that align with his goals, and he does it consistently. Because the value of time compounds. Every hour invested in mastery yields exponential returns. The Stoic also understands the deceptive nature of busyness. Many confuse movement with progress, noise with action, activity with value. They fill their days with endless motion, yet accomplish nothing. The Stoic fights against this illusion. He measures output, not input. He measures results, not effort. And he ruthlessly cuts out anything that doesn't produce real, meaningful progress. That's why he can do in a few hours what the average man wastes days on. Because time is his weapon, and he wields it with precision. Time also demands respect because it is impartial. It treats the rich, the poor, the young, and the old the same. No one can slow it, no one can stop it. You can only choose how you use it. The Stoic doesn't lament time passing, he uses it wisely. He doesn't cling to the past, he doesn't fear the future. He acts in the present with awareness of both. Every second is an opportunity, a chance to build strength, to grow, to create, to learn, to love deliberately. Procrastination is the enemy of time. Every moment you delay your responsibilities, your growth, or your action, you are stealing from your future self. The Stoic battles procrastination like a soldier on the front line. He knows that delayed action is wasted potential. And every time he resists it, he reinforces his power, integrity, and mastery. To live fully, you must treat each day as a gift, a limited battlefield on which you will either conquer or surrender. Furthermore, the Stoic sees value not just in quantity of time, it's about meaningful engagement. He invests in people that matter, in knowledge that lasts, in work that builds, in reflection that sharpens. He avoids distractions that steal his mind and energy. Social media, gossip, meaningless entertainment, these are the quicksand of life, and he walks carefully, if at all, through them, because every moment wasted is an irreversible cost to his existence. The Stoic also respects time by embracing mortality. Knowing that every day could be your last sharpens focus. You waste less, you argue less, you act more decisively. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." This understanding creates urgency without panic,
action without anxiety, clarity without fear. He uses time as the canvas upon which he paints his life intentionally, understanding that death is the ultimate deadline and life is the material with which he works. The lesson is clear. Your life is made up of moments, and each moment demands attention. Treat time as sacred. Protect it as fiercely as you protect your body. Invest it as wisely as you invest your money. Reflect on it, plan for it, execute in it. Discipline your use of it. Treat every day as a war you must win, a gift you must honor, a chance to build your legacy. The Stoic doesn't get time, he earns it. Every minute is a test of focus, patience, and choice. And every minute he wins, he gains mastery over himself and his world. So when you leave this moment and move forward, remember, time is the ultimate weapon and the ultimate teacher. Waste it, and it will teach you loss. Guard it, and it will teach you power. The Stoic understands both the fleeting nature and the infinite value of every second. He doesn't pray for more time, he prays for clarity to use what he has. And in that clarity lies his strength, his peace, and his freedom. Because time, once mastered, becomes not an enemy to fear, but an ally to conquer. And life, finally, becomes his own.
Part 10. The Final Battle. After everything, after all the pain, discipline, stillness, and respect for time, after all the lessons, readings, failures, and victories, everything comes down to this ultimate confrontation, the battle between the two versions of yourself. The weak, distracted, fearful, lazy, procrastinating self, and the strong, focused, disciplined, fearless, relentless self. The world you see around you is only a reflection of the chaos you carry inside. The greatest war is not against anyone else. It is against your own mind, your own impulses, your own doubts, your own excuses. This war is ongoing, relentless, unforgiving. There are no cheers, no medals, no recognition. There is only choice, every second, every hour, every day. It is fought in silence, in empty rooms, in early mornings, in moments when no one watches, when no one notices, when only you and your thoughts remain. The final battle is brutal because it exposes your true self, the version of you that hides behind comfort, avoidance, and distraction. Every time you confront it, it challenges your courage, your patience, and your endurance. And that is exactly why it is the only fight that matters. The stakes are not money, fame, or power. The stakes are you. The outcome will determine not just who you are today, but who you become tomorrow and the life you will live. This battle is fought with the weapons we have built throughout our Stoic journey. Pain is not an enemy, but an ally. Each failure, each rejection, each insult, each hardship is fuel, forging your mind, body, and spirit. Discipline is your shield, the protective barrier against every seductive distraction, every impulse to quit, every temptation to compromise your values. Stillness is your strategy, the calm, calculated center from which you observe the chaos, analyze it, and act decisively. Time is your battlefield, finite, fleeting, irretrievable, and every moment you spend intentionally becomes a victory over the weaker self who had wasted on trivialities. This is the synergy of Stoic practice: pain, discipline, stillness, and time, converging into unstoppable power. You realize in this moment that the war was never about the external world. It was about mastering yourself, controlling your mind, and shaping your destiny through deliberate action. In the heat of this final battle, you discover that it is the small moments that decide everything.
Every time you resist temptation, you gain power. Every time you push yourself when your body or mind screams to quit, you win. Every time you remain calm under pressure, you grow. This is the war that no one sees. The countless decisions, the micro-choices, the quiet acts of courage and persistence that define your identity. And these small victories compound over time until they form an unbreakable character. Victory in the final battle is not a single moment, but a continuous process, one that requires unwavering vigilance. The weak self never sleeps, never forgives, never forgets to tempt you with comfort, distraction, and fear. The strong self, however, remains relentless, consistent, and unwavering. Every day, every hour, every minute becomes a test. And with every victory, you are reshaped into someone far greater than you ever imagined. The final battle also demands that you confront your mortality. Life is short, unpredictable, and merciless. The Stoic knows that every day could be your last, and that every moment is a gift to be used deliberately. This awareness creates urgency without panic, action without anxiety, and clarity without fear. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Every hour, every minute you spend distracted, complaining, waiting, or avoiding is life lost forever. The Stoic does not fear death in itself. He fears a life wasted, unfulfilled, untested, and undisciplined. By respecting the finite nature of time, you transform every moment into a chance to prove your strength, to refine your character, and to claim victory over yourself. In this battle, self-deception is the enemy. It is easy to convince yourself that small compromises don't matter, that laziness today can be made up tomorrow, that avoiding struggle is harmless. But every act of avoidance chips away at your power, your freedom, and your potential. The Stoic sees through this deception. He knows that small victories in the right direction build an unstoppable momentum, while small concessions to weakness lead to ruin. That is why he fights with vigilance, never letting himself slip into excuses or comfort, always demanding more from himself than from anyone else, always pushing the limits of his endurance, patience, and courage. The final battle also teaches an essential truth about emotion. It is not about suppressing feelings or becoming cold. The Stoic does not deny anger, fear, grief, or desire. Instead, he observes them, understands them, and channels them into deliberate action. Emotions become tools rather than chains, fuel for focused work rather than distractions from purpose. This mastery over emotion separates the weak from the strong. While others are swept away by mood, impulse, or panic, the Stoic remains steady, deliberate, and effective. Every challenge, every insult, every setback becomes an opportunity to prove resilience, to reaffirm values, and to demonstrate control. As the battle continues, you realize that every principle we've discussed, discipline, pain, stillness, and respect for time, are interwoven. They are not isolated tactics, but parts of a single system that fortifies your mind and will. Discipline allows you to endure pain. Stillness allows you to act with clarity. Time teaches urgency and focus. Pain teaches growth and resilience. Combined, they create a man who cannot be shaken by circumstance, distracted by novelty, or destroyed by adversity. You understand that the world can do nothing to defeat you if you remain undefeated within. The Stoic final battle also emphasizes accountability. Every decision is yours, and every action reflects your character. You cannot blame the world, others, or chance for failure. Your victories, your failures, your growth, all are your responsibility. This radical acceptance is liberating. Once you stop blaming, you stop complaining. And once you stop complaining, you start building. Each day becomes a proving ground where your integrity, courage, and focus are tested. And each time you act rightly despite internal resistance or external pressure, you win. Finally, the Stoic fight culminates in freedom. Not freedom from circumstance, but freedom from internal chaos. You are no longer ruled by fear, desire, or distraction. You are no longer enslaved to comfort, procrastination, or emotion. You have mastered the ultimate opponent, yourself. And that mastery is unshakable. Life may still be unpredictable, brutal, and challenging, but it no longer controls you. You move with purpose, act with clarity, and live intentionally. The war is eternal, and that is the beauty of it. Each day is a battlefield, each hour is a chance, and every second matters. Live deliberately, act relentlessly, embrace struggle. And in the end, when life tests you, chaos surrounds you, and fear whispers in your ear, you will stand unbroken, because you have already fought and won the greatest battle of all, the battle within.